chosen one. Hey, this message isn't for everyone, but if you're still here, that means it's definitely for you. This isn't random. You didn't just scroll your way into this moment. You were drawn here. And not by accident, by alignment. You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet tension in the air. That sense that something big is building. Something's about to shift. And guess what? You're not crazy. You're not being dramatic. You're being prepared. This right here is your confirmation. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. And what's coming next is going to rewrite the narrative completely. So don't sleep on this. Lean in. Pay attention. Because what you're about to receive is both a wake-up call and a personal promise from the divine. This is your moment, and it's about to get loud. There comes a point where standing still is no longer an option, where everything you've known begins to unravel not out of cruelty, but because evolution demands it. This is that moment. The path ahead no longer makes space for your outdated beliefs, for the fragments of hesitation you've been dragging behind you like rusted chains. What you once longed for is not waiting in the distance. It's accelerating toward you with the momentum of 1,000 unseen forces, shifting the ground before you even take the next step. Looking for purpose and peace. Hit subscribe and start the journey. But transformation doesn't whisper, it roars. This isn't about adjusting your attitude or tweaking your mindset. It's a full-body recalibration, a total redirection of your inner current. You're not being invited, you're being summoned. And this call requires more than hope. It requires your surrender, your action, and your unshakable readiness. Before you leap forward, breathe. Let your intent resonate outwards in whatever way aligns with your conviction. Declare it, affirm it, write it into existence, not for others, but as proof to yourself that you are no longer waiting for permission. You are no longer circling the edge. If your soul recognizes this resonance, you won't flinch. You'll rise. But if you hesitate, it's not rejection. It's revelation. You simply haven't burned through the last layer yet. Upheaval doesn't come to ruin. It comes to rewrite. When disruption arrives like a jolt, it's not to punish. It's a necessary interference in the script you've rehearsed too long in silence. There is no subtlety in this kind of awakening. What feels abrupt is sacred intervention disguised as discomfort. And what feels like collapse is only clearing. You were never built to settle into struggle disguised as routine. You were never meant to shrink around your pain and call it survival. This is not destruction. It's deep repair. The structure that carried your past cannot sustain the weight of what's next. So everything shakes, not to bury you, but to build you differently. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. When the structure you've leaned on begins to shift without warning, it's not collapse, it's calibration. The rhythm of time begins to twist in quiet ways. Moments stretch, clocks blur, and your daily flow rearranges as if moved by invisible hands. What appears as disruption is actually precision, a higher force pausing the external so it can rebuild the internal. This recalibration moves through every layer of being. It's not emotional noise or fleeting mood swings. It's a reconfiguration of the very path you've walked. What you thought was a delay is actually protection, keeping you from planting roots in soil too shallow to sustain your purpose. What's happening now is not about fixing the old. It's about creating space for something that was never meant to grow from that place. The next short window of time is not ordinary. It holds weight. It asks for stillness, not effort, for trust over tension. There's nothing to chase, no finish line to reach. What's needed now is release. Sleep if needed, breathe deeper than usual. Let what's buried rise without resistance. When the dust clears, the version of yourself that emerges won't fit the shape of what came before. This is not a misstep or a sidetrack. This is the foundation, being redrawn by unseen architects to match the structure of what you're truly meant to carry. There are rare moments when an entire life pivots without permission. What felt slow begins to accelerate. What felt far becomes immediate. This is that turn. The old framework, the one that constantly needed to be proven, accepted, justified, is being peeled away. It's not vanity being stripped, it's identity being uncovered. The letting go aches because the mask has fused too tightly. But truth is patient and always waits beneath. As connections drift and familiar paths dissolve, don't label it as disorder. It's refined orchestration. Each closed door, each missed step, is an intentional course correction pulling you toward alignment. Not perfection, but purpose. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. This is a sudden change, yes, but not reckless. It's an urgent correction made by design, because to delay longer would risk stagnation. The discomfort is evidence that something greater refuses to let you settle. For that weary inner voice still trying to hold it all together, let it fall. It wasn't meant to last. What couldn't bear the weight was never meant to carry your calling. So when things shatter, understand. This is rescue in disguise. The force you feel is not failure, it's rerouting. The ache is not rejection, it's realignment. What once felt like unraveling will reveal itself to be the stitching together of something sacred, something long overdue. When internal systems start flickering, when your energy frays without warning, it's not malfunction. It's the first symptom of something much larger moving beneath the surface. A recalibration is happening. Not because something went wrong, but because everything is being brought into divine precision. You asked to move faster, but momentum demands pressure. Envision not an engine, but a tectonic plate shifting. It's silent at first, then it shakes everything. This is that moment. Stability wobbles, emotions boil, clarity seems distant. But none of this is chaos. It's preparation. You are being launched from one layer of existence to the next, and no outdated identity can survive in the chamber where you're headed. The unease is sacred. It doesn't mean something is breaking down. It means something is breaking through. Old echoes, past roles, former masks, they aren't being taken. They're being traded for something real. The stretch marks of spiritual growth look like confusion, but they are coded with direction. Everything that used to pull you into the same loop is now being confronted at the root. Habits that seemed harmless, loyalties that masked wounds, choices that came from fear rather than alignment. They are being torn from your foundation, so you no longer trip over what you once tolerated. What leaves is not punishment. It's the prelude to a clearer strength. This is not subtraction. It's sacred subtraction. The clearing of space so something eternal can finally fill the silence. What grows from here won't need performance to sustain it. It will move with quiet conviction, rooted in identity, not applause. Step beyond the screen, join, and help light the way for others. No longer surviving off reflex or reaction, you start moving with revelation. Others won't understand what changed because it won't look like change. It will look like revelation unveiled. The fragments of who you were dissolve into who you've always been, waiting to be remembered. Suddenly, access begins to shift, not through extra labor, but through deeper alignment. Resources, timing, opportunity, they begin to find you, not because you forced them, but because your frequency finally matches what was waiting to arrive. This isn't about hustle, it's about surrender. The gates open when you stop knocking and start embodying. Expect provision not from predictable sources, but from divine orchestration. Things dismissed before will suddenly open without warning. Not because the rules changed, but because you did. The story here isn't about material gain. It's about spiritual legacy. You're not just unlocking overflow, you're closing the door on generations of lack. The recalibration isn't about greed, it's about grace meeting purpose. And now, the collapse you feared is arriving as mercy. Fatigue, fog, disinterest, they aren't signs of failure. They are signals that your old rhythm has expired. Your spirit no longer fits in systems it once survived in. You are not malfunctioning. You are releasing old code. This shutdown is sacred. Productivity does not define worth. In this stillness, the most divine upgrades happen. The rebuilding begins not with movement, but with surrender. What you once called restlessness is actually recovery. What you thought was burnout is spiritual rewiring. Let go of the pace. Lay it down. Let heaven carry what your hands no longer should. Restoration doesn't require effort. It only requires permission. There's a moment in awakening where everything starts to clear, not gradually, but like mist, evaporating under sudden sunlight. What felt like confusion now reveals itself as preparation. The recent departures from your life weren't betrayals. They were divine protections disguised as rejection. The thinning of your circle wasn't punishment, it was preservation. If your heart overflows with divine love, now is the moment to let it shine. Click the super thank you button on YouTube and give $50 or more to help carry God's light to others. Your gift will bless not only your life, but countless others. You are part of His sacred plan. Your kindness may be the answer to someone's prayer. Share your blessings and honor His kingdom. May His grace guide you always. What looked like abandonment is actually recalibration. Relationships that once felt central now quietly dissolve, not to leave you isolated, but to shield the next version of your path from interference. Proximity matters now more than ever, because what stands beside you begins to shape what stands before you. Those no-shows, unanswered calls, and silent goodbyes were never random. They were precision edits by a hand greater than yours. Not everyone has the wiring to withstand your future. Some only connected to the version of you that dimmed itself. But your evolution demands bolder alignments. Smaller rooms are forming, so greater vision can breathe. As space clears, strength expands. The people who remain will not shrink you, they will stretch you. After the dust settles, what's left is sacred. Don't chase what's gone. Honor it, release it, and keep rising. What comes next transcends personality or performance. You don't just radiate presence, you begin to become presence. Your alignment vibrates louder than your words. People don't just hear you, they feel you. Spaces adjust before you speak. This is not magnetism, it's mission in motion. What once clung, shame, fear, doubt, melts away under this new frequency. It's not confidence for show, it's embodiment of truth. You no longer aim to impress, you aim to imprint, and you do. Without effort, without explanation. Now, Timelines begin folding. Progress no longer ticks in the pattern you've known. What was delayed without reason suddenly breaks free. The silent lock around your movement is gone. What you thought was withheld was actually being aligned for a precise release. What used to crawl begins to leap. Longings you buried begin surfacing, not as dreams, but as instructions. Momentum multiplies. Opportunities arrive before you ask. Helpers find you without your reaching. The dam breaks not with noise, but with certainty. Nothing random, only right on time. This is not about luck or effort. It's restoration of what should have been, realigned to what must now be. What others worked for in decades, you now hold in days, not because you skipped process, but because divine timing skipped delay. Your very structure is being rewritten, not just thoughts or beliefs. Your body, your systems, your patterns. You've carried damage like it was your identity. But now, something deeper begins, a reset of the whole being. What once showed up as exhaustion, detachment, or unease was never laziness. It was your body refusing to run outdated software. Now you'll be guided toward unfamiliar but essential forms of care. Your physical form becomes a channel for clarity, not just a vessel for survival. Your relationship with provision reshapes too. No longer does survival sit in the driver's seat. You are being taught not just how to receive, but how to sustain overflow, not from fear, but from fullness. Faith becomes felt, not just spoken. It becomes a lens, not a theory. The old pattern of pleading breaks, replaced by a steady knowing. You are not begging for a place. You are the blueprint for it. The transformation is complete, not when you achieve, but when you remember who you are, what you carry, why you're here, and that everything being restored was always yours to begin with. While the noise outside grows louder, something quiet inside stabilizes. As confusion spreads and systems falter, a calm emerges, not from blindness, but from knowing. This calm isn't denial, it's depth. It's not about escaping storms, but about knowing where the center is. This peace doesn't block emotion, it reshapes it. You don't avoid chaos, you outgrow its control. Reactions slow down, vision sharpens. The tremors around you don't touch the core within you. You don't retreat, you remain, rooted, clear-eyed, steady. What once triggered panic now barely registers, not because the threat disappeared, but because you no longer answer to it. The winds rise, but your soul doesn't sway. You become the presence others anchor to, not by force, but by frequency. A deeper shift unfolds. Old cycles begin their last rotation. The pattern that kept replaying, the setback after every breakthrough, the loop of return after every departure, no longer holds power. This is where repetition dies and rhythm begins. You're not circling anymore. You're stepping forward. You're not just learning lessons, you've absorbed them. What once held you is now outgrown. That dynamic, that detour, that dysfunction, it ends here. The pattern unravels, and in its place, authority. The moment you stop returning is the moment the narrative flips. The very thing that hunted you now recoils. The test you kept failing now fades. And as loops close, new ground opens. Everything you've endured was not about endurance alone. It was initiation. The stretching, the stillness, the isolation weren't punishments. They were shaping you for something royal. The stripping wasn't random. It was precise. You weren't being erased. You were being recast, no longer defined by wounds, but by wisdom. No longer waiting for a role. You're walking in it. This moment doesn't mark survival. It marks ascension. The weight you carried built the foundation for the influence you're stepping into. And the silence that followed wasn't absence, it was strategy. While no one was watching, everything was being rewritten. Beneath the quiet, a sacred construction took place. No spotlights, no announcements, just slow, steady shifts, aligning every part of you. What others called stagnation was transformation in disguise. You weren't stuck. You were sealed in a season meant to protect the process from exposure. Growth happened where no one could measure it, and soon, without needing permission, you'll step out, not with noise, but with presence. People won't understand how or when it happened, but they'll feel the difference. What you carry now is proof of the process. The quiet was never empty, it was holy. And soon, that quiet will break, not as a whisper, but as a roar, not of volume, but of purpose realized. When that sound echoes, the very places that once felt like endings will witness your emergence. Plans were laid, routes outlined, timing calculated with care. Then, out of nowhere, direction collapsed. The next step vanished. What once felt sure began to blur. But this wasn't disruption. It was divine redirection in disguise. The map didn't fail you. It was edited mid-journey by a force that sees what's still hidden. What seemed like a sudden stop was actually a sacred turn. The broken connection, the halted opportunity, the paused conversation. They weren't setbacks, they were signals. This isn't delay, it's design. Where you thought you lost your footing, you were simply being turned toward the path meant for your feet. Nothing about this shift is random. Repositioning only happens when you're ready for it. And if you quiet the noise, you'll notice. The new route brings not chaos, but clarity. There's no need to force anything. What aligns now will come with peace, not pressure. Stop wrestling the wind. Start adjusting to the new rhythm. A deeper activation is happening, not around you, but within your voice. What once felt like hesitation now ignites into resonance. You're not just talking anymore, you're translating divine intent into language. Words that once trembled now land with force, not for show, for shift. This is no longer about sounding wise. It's about becoming a conduit. Your voice is being shaped into something weighty, not louder, truer. The fear of being misunderstood dissolves because the power behind your words isn't rooted in your effort. It's sourced from sacred fire. Now, as you speak, something begins to change in the air around you. Not through volume, but through vibration. You won't need titles. You won't need approval. What flows from you will cut through confusion and awaken clarity. You don't preach, you pierce. Everything in you is being rewired. You're not hoping for change. You are the result of it. You've outgrown the gravity of your former self. What once tempted now looks trivial. What drained now has no reach. You're not tweaking behavior. You're embodying a new design. You carry no trace of what once broke you. There's no need to explain that you've healed. Your presence testifies on your behalf. You're no longer fitting into old names or dynamics. People from your history won't recognize the blueprint you've become. They were never meant to. The shift may feel like solitude at first, but this silence is sacred. You're not abandoned. You've been elevated into a new signal. Those meant for this level will find you. The rest will naturally release. Shedding is not loss, it's alignment. Celebrate the release. Do not grieve the outdated. That version of you had to fall away for this one to breathe. Stop stretching backward. Start stepping forward. The new can't arrive while your hands are clinging to comfort. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. You keep watching for open doors, but the invitation is waiting behind obedience. It's not rejection, it's a test of readiness. What's next doesn't require more effort, it requires deeper surrender. The key isn't hustle, it's response. This is where logic won't guide you. It's not about understanding. It's about trusting the instruction that makes no sense but feels unmistakably divine. The risk will never seem practical, but it will always be strategic. Faith doesn't ask you to figure it out. It asks you to follow. There's a shift that only activates once you step, not think, not wait, but act. The miracle isn't delayed, it's coded into the step you haven't taken yet. And when you finally move, the outcome will not look like effort, it will look like grace. Others may call it luck, but heaven calls it obedience. And obedience never fails. Your step releases what striving never could. Say yes. That's all it takes. The rest unfolds in ways only destiny could orchestrate. There's a silence that feels like exile, but it isn't. It's the sanctuary of transformation. The moment everything grows still, when your presence fades from the noise, and your name no longer echoes in rooms it once did. That's when the sacred work begins. Not punishment, not neglect, just intentional separation for refinement. Greatness never enters the world loudly. It's shaped in places no one watches. That sense of being invisible is not neglect, it's design. In this stillness, surface fades, and the deepest parts of your calling begin to take shape. When the echo fades, direction grows sharp. When the crowd leaves, revelation speaks. This isn't rejection, it's reservation. A place not everyone is invited into. What looks like retreat is an invitation to intimacy that births endurance. You are being cleansed of dependence on being seen, on being praised, on being validated. You're learning to stand when no one claps, to shine when no spotlight finds you. And when the moment arrives, it won't be noisy, it will be undeniable. No campaign, no approval, just presence. This silence is not the end. It's the final preparation for emergence. You've been pulled inward because what you carry is not casual. It's sacred. Let it happen. Stay rooted. Let the process stretch you until you no longer flinch at stillness. Your return won't require an announcement. It will carry its own gravity. Every detail of your journey is being woven with surgical precision. The missed connections, the unexpected pauses, the turns you didn't choose, they're all synchronized under something greater than chance. What once felt scattered is now starting to hum with purpose. Moments align. Encounters unfold with perfect timing. What felt like random events now connect in a pattern you couldn't have planned. You are not drifting. You are being placed. You are not behind. You are in sync.